What's up, y'all? Welcome to today's video where I'm gonna talk to you knuckleheads for a little while and just get some stuff off my chest and out of my head. And I didn't plan to shoot this video. Honestly, don't even know why I'm shooting it. I just feel something on my heart to share this message because there might be somebody else out there that needs to hear it. 2022 has probably been the toughest year of my life. We didn't lay anybody off during COVID because I had this mindset that I just, on principle alone, wasn't going to do it. And so that's made things financially tougher than they've been in the past. Obviously we're going to make it. We're going to survive. Thanks to you knuckleheads supporting everything that we're doing. But it's also made me aware that I got to diversify a little bit. I can't be sponsor dependent like I've been in the past, because when this sponsor changes that philosophy or they change ad agencies or something like that, you're vulnerable. And so I really have to build my own self-reliance, which is crazy because I've been preaching that for years. So we're going to work hard to build the kayak bass fishing, membership base. We're going to launch the Knucklehead brand in earnest. There's already a lot of stuff on the kayak bass fishing store that you can buy and help support the cause. So if you guys would be so kind as to consider doing that, that'd be awesome. But we had a good get together this past weekend for Veterans Day, and Matt from OEF5, JT from Fishing with Gramps, and several other people, came down. And, Matt and his amazing wife, Serena, brought the smoker down, and they cooked for everybody. And we were able to just, honestly, we just stayed right here at my camper and in the, the area around it, built some fires, set in some chairs, shared some stories. And I can't tell you how good that was for my soul. And I haven't done that in a long time, because most of my relationships since I retired from the military have been really superficial, because when you get a little bit of influence, when you're on TV, when you become an influencer, whatever the hell that really means these days, it gets harder and harder to have real relationships. And then on top of that, all of that creeped over into my marriage, which ultimately led to, failing at that. I've had a lot of successes in my life, and most of those successes have been a result of about 15 failures. And so I put so much stock in my marriage that I didn't even know that it was failing. I didn't know that Christy was struggling or hurting or whatever you want to call it, because I was so blind to what I was going through. I put so much stock in having her to lean on that it became a crutch. And I can only imagine what it's like for the guys and gals out there that have gone through, the struggles and the things that lead to, not just PTSD, but just a cyclic relationship with depression and other, issues. And a lot of people don't realize this, but when you join the military, you probably already had some type of something, you know what I mean? The Marines call themselves Uncle Sam's Misguided Children, the USMC. And throughout my career, I can tell you that there was a lot of broken people that joined. And so we didn't really already have the best coping skills. A lot of us come from abusive or broken home lives. So we didn't necessarily have the best interpersonal relationship, skills in the first place. And then, you couple that with, with doing some crazy stuff. I've never really talked about my Navy career that much. So if you guys will hang around for this video, I need to really just kind of get this out there. So I joined the Navy in 1990 in Savannah, Georgia, when I was in high school. I actually joined as a sophomore, spent almost a year and a half in the delayed entry program, or DEP as they refer to it. And I went right in after high school. I actually graduated in June, and then I went to boot camp in August. So I didn't take any time, to do anything other than I took a little bit of time off for summer, went back home to Louisiana, where I'm originally from, to visit my grandparents. And then it was just off to a career. I went on active duty when I was 17. School, challenged myself to do the hardest things that I could do. Went in to be an aviation electronics technician as part of a program that ultimately went away, that I won't bore you with. Transitioned to being an air crewman and an air crew rescue swimmer. I was really proud of graduating from that school. It was one of the toughest things that I'd ever done. From there, went to fleet replacement, air crew training out in San Diego, California. Finished up there, went to Norfolk, Virginia, checked into my first squadron. And there's a joke in the Navy that says, "Don't unpack your sea bag." And I got to the squadron May 10th, and I was on deployment May 19th, headed to the Mediterranean, Gulf, that whole thing. While heading out on my first deployment, they put Saddam Hussein kind of flared up and put the troops on the border. So they sent us through the Suez Canal over into the Gulf. And the next thing you know, we're flying combat support missions with a maniac who's bluffing, playing this cat and mouse game. And, got to be honest with you, we did that, and I got addicted to the adrenaline rush of, flying and, not knowing what's really going to happen. We did some crazy stuff there. We get sent back through the Suez Canal, and then the crap hits the fan in Kosovo. So they sent us over there. We fly some missions, do a couple of relatively high profile rescue type missions over there. And there was a couple things that I did that in my community, it was like, holy crap, that dude's fearless. And I'm gonna be straight up with you. I look back on that, and I got a lot of credit back then in that scenario and some other things that I did in my combat SAR career that, people thought I was courageous because I volunteered for missions. I did things. Anyway, it wasn't courage. It was, it wasn't fear. Well, I was fearless, but because I didn't care. Like, I hope that makes sense. Like, I wasn't courageous from the standpoint of not having fear because I was staring fear in the face. I didn't have fear because I had no self-worth. I didn't feel like I didn't care if I died, right? So there's a difference between being courageous, in my opinion, and having this overcoming fear. I just didn't have fear. My dad was a raging alcoholic my whole life, and I'd already grew up with a monster. There wasn't really anything that could be more scary to me than that. And so I just didn't have fear. I just, I don't know whether it was like I was exposed to fear so much growing up that it just become one of those things where the adrenaline dump wasn't there. The things weren't there that most people get, but I just didn't. And this is not some, bragging thing. I kind of wore it as a badge of honor back then, but I look back on it and realize I just didn't care. And the reason that I'm bringing this up now is, after I retired from the Navy, my kids are older, doing all that stuff, building my brand, building my career, very blessed, very fortunate. I spent 6, 8, maybe even more than that, maybe even longer than that, years focused on like 100% the wrong thing. Chasing fame, chasing influence, chasing respect. I don't even know what to call it, but it was something that I was chasing to fill a void, to fill an emptiness, to feel something that would make me feel. I was trying to feel, F-I-L-L, something to make me feel, F-E-E-L. I even did that by, when I fell in love with Christy, when I got married, when I did all that stuff, I was trying to feel, and I wasn't feeling. And it's very hard to be empathetic to somebody and something that someone's going through when you don't feel. And you can't feel your heart with anything other than dark if you don't feel. And I wasn't feeling. And the reason that I wasn't feeling is because so many buddies of mine, so many professional relationship, contemporaries, colleagues, whatever you want to call it, people that I had served with, were like dropping like flies left and right around me. And I just shut off feeling. And when you shut off feeling, you can't be selective in who you feel for and who you don't. And I made myself very unavailable to the folks around me, especially Christy, her kids, my kids in many cases, my family, friends. And I either isolated myself from people or I lashed out at people because I didn't have any real relationships. I didn't have any real friendships. And then when I had the crutch kicked out from under me with Christy, saying she didn't want to be married anymore and all that kind of stuff, I had been holding on to her to tread water. And, we've talked about this after the fact, and she said I held on to her so hard that I was drowning both of us. And the reason that I was drowning both of us is I just kept taking on all these things that I was trying to use to replace whatever this emptiness, whatever this desperation, depression, whatever you want to call it was. And it wasn't working because I was taking on more and more. It was dragging me down. I was dragging her down. And one of the biggest blessings that's happened to me this year is her leaving me. And I know that sounds crazy, but when I didn't have her to hold on to anymore to help me tread water, when I had to let go of that, I couldn't hold on to all this crap over here anymore because now I didn't have anybody else to hold on to help me. And so there was 6 or 8 weeks that I was literally on the borderline of giving up. I launched the Catch 22 challenge. I'm out there running my mouth about helping other people, but I didn't really take my own advice, which is, how they say on the airplane, when that oxygen mask drops down, you have to put it on yourself first. And what's crazy is I've even used that analogy before, and I've even went through this thought process before, but that shows you just how easy you can slip right back into it, and why the peer support part of what we're trying to build with OPS, the OPS part of Fish Ops, and why the organizations out there that support that are so important. Because you have to have a support network to get right and to stay right, because mental health and depression and the chemical imbalances that we go through and the lack of coping skills and the things that we don't handle being triggered really well with, handle being challenged, if you will, whatever it is that's your trigger, if you don't have a support network, you're not destined to fail, because there's some really strong people out there that just, for whatever reason, are just very self-reliant. But until you get to that point, it's really easy to just get sucked back in and just slip right back in. And I'll tell you, I could go from a day where I had the highest of highs and the best day ever. There's a couple trips where I fished with Austin. We filmed. We had a great day. He leaves to go back to Tennessee, and I sit in my camper like numb to the world. And I couldn't tell you why, until now. And I'll tell you what that is when you don't have a purpose and you don't have a mission and you don't have things that you find fulfilling. It's very easy to not do them. And it got to a point where fishing wasn't enough to do that for me, because fishing became so superficial with having to constantly do some type of sponsor requirement and some type of this and some type of that. So I had to do a lot of soul searching and say, what is it that I really enjoy? And I'd gotten to the point where I dreaded fishing because it was so much work that it sucked the joy out of it. And so this year, while at the bottom of the bottom, and a couple of sponsorships go away because of agencies changing or the company's philosophy changing, or we're going in a different direction, I had to do a lot of soul searching. I had to do a lot of figuring out, what do I really want to do and what do I want to be, when I grow up. And I enjoy interacting with anglers. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy creating content that motivates, inspires, and moves people. And I don't care how much less money I make. I don't care, about any of that. What I want to do is motivate and inspire other people to get out of that, that trench of having no momentum. It's a word I use a lot. No momentum is the opposite of momentum. And I've been doing stuff for the last few months that has given me that momentum, because I got sucked into depression and anger and resentment and fear and all of those things. And listen, I don't care if you are a religious person or a not religious person. If you will get spiritual, it will help you feel so that you can fill yourself up with positivity. And for me, that became reading the Bible. That became watching more positive videos on content that's uplifting and fulfilling, listening to, spiritual music, listening to uplifting podcasts and things like that. And I really believe you can feed the negativity, but you can also feed the positivity. And so my goal moving forward is to be the guy that feeds the positivity. I've gotten sucked into the negativity so much over the last, not necessarily the last couple of years, because I've actually gotten out of a lot of that drama and crap in the industry. But then I've not filled that void up necessarily with the best positive stuff. And so we're doing that now. My son is a really big part of that. My daughter is now here in Huntsville since she got separated from the Navy for some stress fractures in her legs. And we're going to figure out what her plan is together. And we're taking on that family first approach. A cousin that I haven't talked to in 3 or 4 years called me, 5 minutes before this call. And, God just literally put his hand on my life and is starting to move things around because I said I wanted him to, and because I got out of the way of forcing things that didn't need to be forced. And so my goal over the next, honestly, I don't have a window, but my goal is to make kayak bass fishing the biggest resource that I can for the kayak fishing community, make fish shops as big a resource as I can for raising awareness, raising funds, and raising, opportunity, creating opportunities, for public servants and what I call homeland heroes, and then our military heroes who deserve that. And I don't have all the answers figured out yet. I don't have the best words yet to express to do that, but I'm going to end with this because, again, I don't know why I'm doing this video. It's not my standard type of video, but it was just on my heart that I mean, if there's one person out there that's watching this that needs to hear this, then maybe you're who I'm talking to. But find somebody to mentor, or find a mentor, because accountability and positivity and reinforcement is the cure to something that doesn't really have a cure. And that sounds contradictory, but the struggles that a lot of us go through are something we're going to have to deal with forever. So there is no cure. The only cure is that if you stay positive, you keep momentum, you have somebody that counts on you, and you can count on somebody. It creates an accountability change that makes it really hard to be negative. It's very hard to get sucked into the dark when somebody's shining a spotlight in your face. And so be that beacon of light, be that accountability, positivity person. I'm not talking about some kumbaya crap or some touchy-feely stuff, but like just genuinely pick up the phone and be like, hey, you good, bro? You good, sis? And be that person that is also willing to do that when you need it. So be positive, stay positive, find one thing that makes you feel better about who you are and what you're contributing to this rock that we all live on, and then build on that. And I really know that it could be overcomplicated, but it also can be real simple. Be positive, wave the flag, make somebody else smile, which will make you smile, and that'll solve a lot of problems.